それがちょっとタイプといえばタイプだけど認めるのもなんだけど私に演じられるかな私にずっとなるかならしさなんかに縛られない君の色で君だけの輝きで選ぶな道を照らせまっすぐに進め Run away, run away, run away, run away 好きなようにやれやそれが踊ろうね Run away, run away, run away, run away 他の誰にもまるきないように演じてこう Say, 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 shock you okay
Oh, sweet Mother Mercy, we are finally back. Hello there, everybody, Sobata92, aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Rose Guns Days. And we are now in the final season. So, first things first, thumbnail template was made by SkydivingQuagga, and for those of you who can see the secret little joke we kind of hid within that one, you have taste. So, how the hell do I summarize what happened in the third season? I can only say, arguably one of the worst things. Good. And that was the death of a character that I was a little shaky about in the initial, but she ended up becoming one of my most favorites. And to see her die, it left a painful hole in my chest. And then, of course, Gabriel. The man known as Gabriel. And his pure, unadulterated hatred for the Mafia in general. I can already imagine that since this is indeed the final season, things are probably going to be hurting a lot more. So, let's put ourselves into the torment. Like ripping off a band-aid, allow the pain to hit us. How'd I like to experience... I've done minigame the entire time, so bring it on. Let's go start from fresh again. I realize if I inherit the score, I'm gonna be kind of screwed over. So we'll just don't inherit the score. We'll start fresh.
This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real people, events, places, etc. is purely coincidental.
Here's a question. Are you guys gonna shoot me again?
There's no intent to discriminate against a specific nationality or ethnic group.
Well, yeah.
Oh, by the way, we are intending to shoot you, by the way. That's why we got this gun here, so nighty-night.
Oh, wait, never mind. I'm gonna leave that to the other people that are probably gonna shoot you, by the way. Anyway. Never mind, maybe it's the boss. I can't remember.
Holy crap, anyone should totally infringe that!
I'm no, hell no. Oh, God! God, why do they keep shooting me?
Shooting the way! Move! 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 Doctor, it's an emergency!
Don't let someone like this kill you, brawler! A man like you can't die like this!
Alan, please answer me. Alan! Alan! Hi. Shit.
Alan had been saved from a tight spot by Meiju and the others. Right. On the scene, he had shrugged off the wounds as being his scrapes, but that had been a terrible mistake. An excess of chemicals in his brain had simply been blocking off all the pain. kind of like adrenaline and, or I wouldn't say endorphins, but definitely adrenaline would help null the pain. Alan couldn't have avoided every single bullet in that hailstorm. Bullets, fragments of broken glass, and all sorts of things had wounded him greatly. He had suppressed all that pain, which could easily have a normal person writhing on the ground, and continued to fight. This is Alan we're talking about. He's kind of durable. The instant he had been completely sure of Yuki's safety, Alan had suddenly dropped, like a puppet with its strings cut. Well, the person that he was extremely... Yeah, it makes sense. As soon as he drops his guard, all of the adrenaline's gonna wear off, and usually the pain is so unbelievably overwhelming, then he's gonna freaking pass out. That, or he was hit with bullets, so he's probably lost a little bit of blood. Alan had been carried to an underworld doctor in Small Rock, Chinatown. We're getting real. We're getting started right where we left off. Excellent. There were lots of doctors who didn't like treating people with bullet wounds, fearing police involvement. Members of the criminal underworld could only rely on underworld doctors. Fair. Probably a lot cheaper, too. He's the man who protected my sister. I don't want him to die. I'll pay whatever it takes. Good Meiju. Thank you. Like, the fact he starts that off with, he protected my sister. Don't let him die. Thank you, Meiju.
Well, then I'm terrified to think what had happened to me the day I let someone like this die.
Can we really trust this shady-looking man? Why didn't you take him to a more modern hospital?
She called me shady-looking. Okay, out with it. Out with you. Okay, out with you. Out with you. From here on, it's my job.
Meishu, leave the rest to him. Getting in the way of his work won't help Alan-kun. Alan, please be safe.
Brawler, don't die.
My sister probably won't leave this place. Protect her and Alan-kun, even if it costs you your lives. You.
Yes, boss!
Seriously, farewell to La Vie en Rose, Chapter 4. I probably mispronounced that painfully. Seriously, showing that Meiju is an incredibly good guy. Like, he's honorable in that regard. Okay, this guy, he might be a keeper. Save him. And again, with the context there, he included Alan to be protected by the Chinese bodyguards too. He specifically said his name, that he must be protected too. That shows that the fact that he went and took fort to actually protect his sister earned him some bonus points of respect. And, well, Meiju is a protective brother, so... Sunday, October 23rd, 1949, midnight. The massive, unprecedented gunfight. The massacre, involving dozens of ordinary citizens, was not fussed over by the radio or evening papers. In Tokyo at the time, everyone knew that the occupying forces hushed up all information discrediting the peacefulness of their rule. Yes, I wonder how that could have happened. However, they couldn't stop rumors. This gunfight, unprecedented in the history of City 23, was on everyone's lips. However, their greatest concern was whether terrifying crimes like this would continue. At the very least, all underworld feuds up to that point had been conducted quietly. It wasn't completely unheard of to have machine guns roaring in the middle of the street. But the unwritten rule was to avoid getting city folk involved whenever possible. And Gabriel threw those right out the window. That unwritten rule had been broken. Until now, it had been possible to protect yourself from mafia involvement to some degree. However, from now on, even when walking across the street, there was no guarantee that you wouldn't get caught up in some gunfight or explosion. The din of the street was somehow a bit quieter and tenser than before. After a hurried examination by police, the scenes of the incidents were sealed off by MPs. All the gruesome traces of the gunfights were hidden by sheets, like some sort of construction project. MPs kept a strict watch over the perimeter, making sure no one got close. The city folk would apparently be forbidden from standing near the crime scene. It was rumored that families of the victims, who demanded that the crimes be investigated, were led away, supposedly for their own protection, and confined. Though it was such a gruesome event, City 23 was apparently trying to hush it all up. There was an entertainment area near Chinatown where Chinese and Japanese both usually entered and mingled. The number of people there dwindled, reminiscent of the tyrant Caleb's era. In particular, you couldn't find any of the young Chinese involved with the GDS. They had probably been given strict orders from their GDS leaders not to provoke PYRE in any way. Especially considering Gabriel's been spreading false information that there is the possibility that the Chinese were involved in this, when in reality, it was entirely his fault. So now, the GDS and PYRE are gonna be on hostile terms, and god damn it, Gabriel's just destroying everything. PYRE gave no instructions to show restraint, but those involved with her apparently understood that the situation was grave. I mean, hell, freaking Rose is on death's door and shit. God. This shopping district, which even went by the name Brawler's Alley, was unbelievably quiet tonight. If you guys can't tell, I'm incredibly enthusiastic because I've missed this dearly. Especially with how Season 3 ended. God, it hurt. Monday, October 24th, the day after the incident, a modest funeral was held for Stella. It was treated as a family funeral, and the attendees were limited to a few high-level execs such as Richard, Cyrus, Meryl, and Wayne. However, they were protected by enough guards that the word intimidating didn't cover it. The time had finally come to say goodbye to Stella. Forever. Before the casket was closed, everyone covered her body with flowers and said their last farewells. Have fun on the other side. If they got places to drink there too, give me a till when I'm gone too. After all, idiots really are terrible. I could cry. Seriously. Even though this is our last goodbye, I can't think of anything kind to say.
I believe the very fact that you swore not to let her have died in vain. Don't give. Thank you, Meryl. I'm sure Stella is glad.
Bye-bye, Stella. Wait for me in hell. Well, obviously. Did you think you'd get to go to heaven after living selfishly so long? You and I are going to hell. Don't be so full of yourself. Bleh. As part of their final conversation, Meryl stuck her tongue out at Stella's sleeping body. Then suddenly she crouched to the ground. She covered her face in her hands, quietly moaning as her shoulders shook. Cyrus gently clapped her on the shoulder, nodding to indicate that he felt the same way.
So long, Stella. We've known each other a long time, but we never talked much. I wasn't your type, and I was always uncomfortable around girls who were too pretty. Still, since the day we said we'd raise Madame Rose's flag, we've been war buddies who put their lives on the line together. Rest in peace, war buddy.
And that's seriously, that right there is a huge amount of respect from Cyrus, of all people. That's just, God damn it, I'm gonna miss Stella.
From here on out, don't think about anything. Just stop worrying and leave it all to us. And of course, the same goes for avenging you.
You always treated me like a brat. That's not true. When you weren't looking, she complimented you on how reliable you'd gotten. First I've heard of it. I wanted to be important enough that I could make her say it to my face. We will carry the same burden you did. And no matter what, we will pass it down to our future countrymen. So long. Just having a funeral makes you 100 times luckier than us alley rats. When Wayne finished, the final participant, who had been waiting at the back of the hall all this time, walked to the casket. It was Keith. His face looked as though he had spat out all of his emotions, leaving him withered.
I want you to speak to her as well.
Keith's words would be the last ones to reach Stella's ears on this earth. Oh God. Part of me really hopes, okay, I know that I've wanted a character like Leo to come back and all that, but with Stella gone, oh God. Oh God, no. As much as there's like a small hope that he comes back, I'm afraid that if he does come back, what his reaction would be upon hearing Stella's death. His words would be the last ones to reach Stella's ears on this earth. After that, the lid of the casket would be closed. Forever. Cyrus and the others hadn't known about Keith and Stella's special relationship. My God, did I feel for it. They had heard about it for the first time this morning from Richard. Only Meryl had heard the rumors. However, until she heard it from Richard's lips, she had thought of it as nothing more than one of Stella's crazy jokes.
I'm sure there are last words my sister would love to share. No one will rush you. Speak to her at your leisure.
Thank you. Richard's expression was, of course, worn. However, his words to Keith were gentle. It looked as though he was treating him as a close friend. No. Family. Seeing this, Cyrus thought that Keith would be like a little brother to Richard from now on, even without a blood connection. No. That's what everyone there thought. Because they could see at a glance from Keith's face how much he had cried for Stella. Richard stepped a short distance away, letting Keith and Stella be alone for a while. God damn it, God damn it, I'm still tearing up here. It's not as though we spent years together after meeting, but to me, you were definitely... There ought to have been many things left to say. They rose up one after another, but each disappeared as soon as it reached his throat. But he probably did speak. The billions of feelings he couldn't express with his mouth, he surely spoke with his heart. He had probably been speaking to her with those words of the heart since the previous night, even when he wasn't standing in front of her corpse. So after a long silence, Keith raised his hanging head as though shaking off some lingering regret. Then, he kissed Stella one last time, and slowly made way for Richard.
You gave her something very important at the end of her life. As her brother, I am truly grateful.
I learned something even more important from Stella. Guess that makes us even.
You are my brother, part of my family. Though people sometimes lose family members, they also gain new ones at times.
Yuji-kun, is part of my family, too.
Indeed. There's Yuji, too.
I'll protect him with my life. And I'll avenge Stella. I'll do it with my gun. At that point, the emotions building up in Keith caught in his throat, and he hung his head, shoulders shaking. And that right there, it is extremely hard not to break down right now, but just Richard calling Keith his brother, that just... It doesn't matter how long the wait was between this season and the previous season. God, those feelings are still fresh. No, the wound itself is still fresh. Richard hugged him gently. Richard's words had probably been right. He had lost a family member named Stella, and gained a new family member named Keith. That might have filled in the fissures of their hearts. Slightly. Cyrus understood that it was now Keith, not him, who stood the only chance of soothing Richard's heart and understanding him.
So long.
Sumiko.
Fear not. I hear Yuji's condition has stabilized.
Oh, thank God.
Because you saved him at the cost of your life. We'll most definitely pass the future of our countrymen on to Yuji.
Richard gently kissed Stella's forehead. Then, he slowly closed the lid of the coffin. It was an eternal farewell. Leave Yuji-kun to us. And I'll avenge you by my own hand. That expression shift. If you don't look after that kid, it looks like he's gonna run wild.
It's okay. Richard will keep him calm. It may sound strange, but I think it was easier on Richard to have a man like Keith around.
Easier on him. Richard really wanted to cry. But because Keith cried, Richard was able to stay calm. At least a little.
Wounds of the heart heal a bit faster when you have someone by your side to cry in your place.
In that sense, Stella really did catch an attractive man in the end. For Richard's sake, and Yuji's too.
Keith is a calm man. He was emotional just now, but he's not the sort of man to run wild. We should leave those two alone for a while.
That's family, isn't it? I'm jealous. To think you can share even sadness. Though to me, it just looks like they're making each other feel sadder. I wonder if that's because I'm still a brat. If Rose had died instead of Stella, wouldn't it be you crying over there?
Probably. Let's go, Wayne. Leave those two be for a while. Anyway, right now we've got to find info.
I mobilized all the women of Primavera. Half of all people are women. And half of all time is night. I'll show them that making enemies of the ladies of the evening means having half the world as your enemy.
And Wayne, you probably want to stay by Rose's side, but resist that temptation and gather information.
I'm Rose-san's bodyguard. I'll let someone else be a boss.
Don't say that. The wolves of the alleys won't listen to anyone but you.
Is there any point gathering information now? The GDS did it, right? Not just the rumors, but how information sources are all saying it. Please tell me there is at least some doubt.
Even if the person who shot Madame Rose was Chinese, I won't conclude it was the GDS without proof.
You look all grim, but you're actually calmer than Richard in some ways.
I knew from way back that he can be surprisingly short-tempered. Don't worry. While I still have life in me, I won't let this situation get any worse.
Don't raise the death flag, you magnificent bastard! Maybe you really were perfect to be grand boss. What if there was proof that the GDS did it?
If so, then even someone as Buddha like as me wouldn't show him mercy.
God, don't give in to the hatred. Why would Meiju do that to somebody he obviously cared about? Just good lord, man. But then again, this is Gabriel. It's because of Gabriel and his network to spread rumors and all that. It's what's causing all of this bad shit to happen.
Calm down, he isn't dead.
I told you not to trust such a shady-looking man. When will Alan wake up? If he never wakes up again, I'll never forgive you! No matter how much she raged, Alan didn't move an inch as he slept on the bed, as though dead. It was a side effect of the secret medicine given to Alan by the underworld doctor. It greatly increased the body's resistance and healing powers. Its effect was so great that Western medicine could only explain it as a mystery. However, in order to make Alan's body focus solely on healing, it was necessary to put it into a state similar to hibernation. No one knew how long he would sleep, but he was supposed to wake up naturally as soon as he was healed.
Though some people never open their eyes until they die.
You dumbass! Don't say that to her! It's not funny! Brother, why did you entrust Alan to a man like this?
I would appreciate it if you refrained from teasing my sister too much.
Sorry, I hardly ever get a chance to chat with young women. Anyway, this guy's tough. More importantly, he has tenacious mental strength. All alone, he joined a massive gunfight that put him on the brink of death, right? That's not something proper nerves are capable of.
In almost all cases, the human mind breaks before the body. Of course it does. To protect our own lives, we're built that way. In other words, even when we're cornered so badly the mind gives up, the body still has a little strength left in it. When that faint, yet enormous power is drawn out, the Japanese call it death strength. The strength obtained when one is prepared for death. Alan had prepared for death several times on the battlefield, and he had fought on while suppressing that fear. He had subconsciously learned how to summon his death strength. So even in that hopeless gunfight, isolated and without support, he was able to fight until the end, all alone.
One can gain a terrifying power by surrendering their heart to a dragon, but it always comes at a cost.
Of course. You always have to pay for the excess strength, the stress the body endured. And with interest.
In other words, Alan Kuhn fainted not due to the exhaustion from his wounds, but as a price of his state of extreme enthusiasm.
Exactly. He wasn't taken down by wounds, but burned himself up completely and turned to ash.
So he's gonna be, awakened as a phoenix of sorts. So, can I take that to mean he was overly enthusiastic, so now he's worn out and sleeping?
Precisely.
He wasn't unconscious due to his injuries, but merely in a dead sleep due to total exhaustion. After hearing it explained that way, Meishu finally accepted it and relaxed just a little.
So, is the time of his awakening a matter known only to God?
It all depends on this man, but he must not be woken by force.
That is a problem. There is a matter we must question him on as soon as possible.
I'll contact you the moment he wakes. Until then, you should let him rest peacefully. Come now! Out with you! Make any more noise and he won't wake until next year!
Yikes.
Did that calm your fears any?
Yeah. I'll retract what I said about him being shady looking.
Alan Kuhn saved your life. Did you think I would leave him in the care of anything less than the best?
I am happy he seems to be safe, but I can't even imagine I'm going to explain about you and me when he wakes up.
I am confident Alan Kuhn will accept the facts as they are. Though, if he does not, we merely have to put him back to sleep for all eternity this time.
Minus 30 points. If you lose 15 more points, I'll break off our sibling relations again.
Such an unfair penalty. And I thought I was saying something nice.
Just telling boring man jokes to a nervous woman is a grievous sin. Don't forget that.
My. Then let us put aside jokes and farces and have a serious discussion.
You mean Alan?
I mean the mysterious people who attacked you two.
Give it up. There's nothing there you'll enjoy hearing. They were after me alone. Alan just got caught up in it and ended up... It's all the Mafia's fault. How can I possibly apologize to him? But I'm grateful to you and the others. If you hadn't come to save us, I'm sure both of us would have been killed. I'm sorry. I don't want to think about any of it right now.
I understand how you feel, and I realize that forcing such a topic on my nervous sister is deserving of a penalty. However, I want your assistance. Your life was saved thanks to Alan Kuhn's great efforts. But the world at large has been filled with rumors that it was all an arranged farce.
A farce? What was?
The rumors say that Primavera and the GDS were not attacked by a third party. Instead, it was merely made to look that way, and we attacked Primavera on our own.
That's an interesting joke, but there's no way it's true. Are you calling that a farce? That's absurd! They went to all those lengths just to kill me, right? Do you realize how much Alan risked to protect me from them? Originally, the plan was surely for Meishu to be killed too, so that Meishu and Richard would both lose their little sisters. However, thanks to Alan's great efforts, Meishu had miraculously survived. He was basically the character that somehow slightly put a monkey wrench in Gabriel's plan. Somewhat. That was probably a slight miscalculation on the part of the mastermind behind the attackers. However, they had modified their plan immediately, because this is Gabriel. Or perhaps the plan was set up so that even failing to kill Meishu wouldn't ruin it. And I imagine it would be the same thing vice versa. The enemy's highest goal was surely to start a feud between the GDS and Primavera. If the rumor circulated that the GDS was behind this incident and Primavera actually did dance that tune, then everything would end up as the enemy wanted after all.
I know that Alan Kuhn put his life on the line in order to protect you. That is why I cannot abide by this being called a farce. Because Alan Kuhn protected you, they suspect us of being the masterminds, and a feud with Primavera will begin.
How can you say it like that?
I won't let it happen. So I want your help. I know you don't want to think about it, but please, tell me anything and everything you remember about that day.
I never want to remember what happened that day. If I try to force myself to remember, my whole mind goes blank. But even so, I will face that day. A car suddenly came rushing at us. If Alan hadn't pushed me out of the way, it surely would have hit me. Then, men with guns glared at me and dashed forward. The enemies were all Asian. I can't say for sure, but I don't think they were our countrymen. I get the feeling lots of them had Japanese-like faces. But they weren't Japanese.
What do you mean? People with Japanese faces, but not Japanese.
First, the suits. They were a bit too expensive for the Japanese to afford these days. Okay, oh, wait. I'm assuming she's implying, Japanese Americans. I'm assuming? Like, or maybe it really is just, the clothing. Okay, it's probably just the clothing. They wouldn't look odd on one of our countrymen or an American, but it felt a little out of place for the Japanese. People who worked as hired killers usually weren't particularly affluent, so it was hard to imagine them being dressed nicely. Furthermore, the suits of the Japanese, the people who lost the war, were usually yet another rank down. However, the suits worn by the attackers seemed a bit too expensive for the Japanese. So though their faces were Japanese, it felt wrong somehow.
Did they speak in Japanese?
No, I didn't hear it coming from their lips. I only heard them speak short phrases in English. Their speaking was incredibly natural. Too natural if they were just using it as an excuse to hide their Japanese origins. Okay, so they were American-born Japanese people. Okay. That's a possible implication that they're literally just American... No. I don't know. So, basically, what we're getting here is the Primavera has the suspicion that the GDS is doing it. But meanwhile, Meiju himself is kind of like starting to piece together like, speaking English. Because I'm getting like this feeling that Meiju himself will probably piece it all together, that it was Gabriel's forces that are doing this. Well, probably. After receiving an urgent message about this incident, Shilong had returned to Japan immediately. After all, his instincts had seen the possibility that this might develop into an incident that would throw the GDS into turmoil. I forgot what voice I gave you.
The enemy retreated without abandoning the wounded or even leaving behind corpses. They probably did all they could to prevent their identities from being discovered. Quite a terrifying bunch.
Some underworld groups had put characteristic tattoos on their members. People like that, a corpse was the same as a business card. In an assassination plan like this one, it was very unlikely that they'd leave behind corpses.
So, to turn it around, we might suspect the involvement of families whose corpses could provide just that sort of proof. It isn't enough evidence to say for sure, but it is possible to prioritize our suspicion of several families that way. Well,
on top of that, they had many skilled assassins with them. That alone should narrow the possibilities down to a few. The bosses will all start naming one suspicious opposing force after another. However, when Zilong cleared his throat, silence fell immediately.
I believe that the mastermind behind this incident will surpass all of our expectation. By which you mean, I can't envision the personality of the enemy chief. The one who planned such a brutal assault that knowingly involved a great many noble city folk.
Young lord, please pardon me, but there are several beasts in human skin who could do such a thing without batting an eye.
Would those working under such a brutal chief be able to retreat in such a orderly fashion when it became clear that their plan had failed?
If the boss was brutal, he'd probably have given the attackers strict orders to kill the target, even at the cost of their lives. They should have been fully aware of what awaited them if they somehow failed in their mission and ran along home. However, when faced with defeat, they had retreated calmly. They decided to retreat, even when they had enough excess power to care for the dead and wounded. This showed that their orders had included permission to retreat if they suffered a certain level of losses.
We don't care if ordinary city folk get involved. Just kill the Primavera and GDS VIPs.
Would someone inhuman enough to give such an order also give his underlings permission to retreat?
See, it is impossible.
True enough. It's as you say, young lord.
As hard as it is to imagine, the enemy chief is terrifyingly brutal. yet broad-minded enough to accept failure in his subordinate. It almost sounds like one of the enlightened rulers in the records of the Three Kingdoms. To my knowledge, people like that don't exist outside of myths. And I certainly haven't heard of an organization headed by such an enlightened ruler anywhere in the Kanto region, much less Tokyo. That is why I doubt it could have been any of the possible masterminds you've hit upon so easily.
The bosses were speechless, and if Gabriel had been there, he probably would have clapped his hands and laughed shrilly in honor of Zilong's wisdom. He probably would, because the enemy wasn't anyone in the criminal underworld. It was an assassination squad led by Gabriel Kaburaya, formed around a core group of Japanese Americans.
Right now, instead of spending time on that, there's another matter I'd like to prioritize. And that is eliminating the source of the demagoguery claiming that the GDS was behind it all. That was probably arranged for in advance of the attack. The rumor that we were the culprits has spread with unnatural swiftness. That must be another part of the enemy's strategy. It is likely that the attackers who concealed themselves are no longer within the city. I'm sure searching for them won't turn up any results. However, the scheme we're trying to frame us should still be in City 23.
I'll investigate the source of the rumors at once. At Meiju's signal, the bosses all rose to their feet.
We have not a moment to waste. A lie left uncorrected will erode even the truth. At this rate, all will assume we were really behind these attacks. We will capture those trying to frame us and force them to divulge the identity of the mastermind. I expect a lot from you all. Go.
The bosses bowed and left hurriedly. Well, considering it's Gabriel himself who pretty much, considering this is probably, considering what Gabriel did to Butler, I already imagined that trying to get information out of any of his underlings is going to be nigh impossible because they don't want to incur whatever Gabriel will do to them.
Meiju, I want you to remain in contact with Primavera. Of course, I will continue to approach Cyrus and ask for a meeting with Richard. Was the funeral for his little sister held today? It was to be a family funeral with close relatives only, so we were not allowed to attend. Those involved mentioned there being a funeral service planned next Sunday, the 30th. There will probably be a chance to meet Richard at that funeral, but it would not be sincere to wait until then. We must express our condolences directly to make absolutely sure they don't take it the wrong way. Understood. A Primavera without Madame Rose is like a wounded lion. You should treat them like a completely different organization than the one you know. I've heard Richard is a man with a love for numbers. I do believe such a man wouldn't be led astray by rumors, but whenever the human heart cannot be explained by reason alone,
Whenever someone is hurt emotionally, usually they tend to do brash things. They basically let down their guard and they tend to react, usually lashing out at people that usually have the best intentions to try to help them. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how humans are. Usually whenever they're hurt so much, they don't think about what happens after they lash out because they're in a different state of mind where everything is literally hurting and they feel like anything that tries to comfort them is just going to hurt them. The experience is not the same with everybody, but I would not blame Richard if he did do something rash because he's hurting. But I do honestly want to believe that Richard is mature enough to calm himself down and not immediately lash out, you know? I want to believe that.
Exactly. And the enemy has probably tried to make contact with Richard already. If I were the enemy leader, I would never miss a chance to go after him now while he's still grieving over the loss of his sister.
Of course, Meiju had also predicted that an enemy plotting a feud between the two families would come to provoke Richard. However, to protect Richard during his mourning, Cyrus had blocked all people from meeting with him. Smart on you, Cyrus. Cyrus was a cool thinker. In order to protect Richard, he would keep a careful eye out to make sure nothing roused Richard's temper. By blocking all interviews, Cyrus would probably also block any enemy contact. Even the wise Meiju didn't think the culprit might actually be the one responsible for maintaining public order in City 23. Hello there, you Nagito-looking motherfucker. Ugh. He couldn't imagine an American approving a plan that killed American police officers who got dragged into the fight just to get Japanese and Chinese mafias fighting each other. Meiju's wisdom itself prevented him from grasping Gabriel's madness. If I were the enemy leader, I would never miss a chance to go after Richard now while he's still breathing. The young lord had said that confidently, and he was exactly right. Damn it. Oh, God.
Please, allow me to express my sincere condolences, Mr. Maogi.
Not at all. I must offer my heartfelt apologies for not preventing the disturbance that broke out in City 23.
True. Cyrus had prevented all contact from outsiders wishing to offer their condolences, at least until the funeral. However, members of the occupying force HQ were a special case. In particular, when the major in charge of public safety in City 23 came calling, he couldn't afford to turn it back.
Forgive me for summoning you today. An officer in the occupying forces is supposed to be a neutral party, so I hope you see why it was difficult for me to meet you directly at your club.
No trouble at all. On the contrary, my sister must be honored to receive your prayers, Major.
His official reason for summoning Richard was so that he could be questioned regarding the events of the previous day. However, that was only done for show. Gabriel had invited Richard and the others into a Japanese-style room where he gave them an extravagant reception to reward Richard for his hard work.
Richard's pretty worn out. He won't be able to hang around too long today, okay?
We understand. This shouldn't take long.
Ever since the Major came, the almighty captain's settled down quite a bit, huh? Please drop by the club whenever you like. Every now and then, forget the Major and let loose.
That doesn't sound half bad.
Once, Captain Butler had such an intimate relationship with Primavera. However, ever since Gabriel took command, they had become estranged remarkably quickly. Cyrus thought it was probably because the special officer investigating corruption had Butler by the collar. Butler seemed somehow worn out and lifeless. To Cyrus, who'd known Butler well when he was bursting with energy, the change was a sad one.
How's Rose-chan looking?
Sorry, but I can't say any more than that her condition is stable.
I hear you moved her somewhere safe.
She's in a safe and secret location. I can't say any more. Not even to you, Captain. However, once this cools down, I think it'll be possible for you to come meet her. This is a bad time. Sorry, but please let us keep it a secret for now.
I'm praying for her recovery.
And I feel that's genuine. Gabriel's aide was standing right behind Butler. This man understood Japanese. He was checking to make sure Butler didn't say too much. By now, Butler had completely lost any fangs that might have resisted Gabriel. He was being blackmailed with something that forced him to surrender no matter what. The only way he could send a message was by showing them how much his aura had changed. Of course, such a subtle message would be lost on a plain man like Cyrus. Keith.
Oh, he would notice?
Only Keith noticed the faint change. However, Keith had only met with Butler once before. Though he noticed a huge gap between this and Butler's earlier behavior, they hadn't been together long enough for him to pick up on anything more.
Who's that young one? I've seen that face before.
Oh, Keith? It's complicated. Well, please think of him as Richard's new guard.
Ever since Stella's funeral, Keith and Richard had become like brothers. On the surface, Keith had been removed from battalion to serve as Richard's personal guard. However, it was probably possible for Richard to seem calm only because someone sharing his pain was with him at all times. Today, Richard had made up his mind to take a considerably big step. After all, Gabriel was part of the occupying forces' public order department. From Primavera's perspective, they were pure victims in the recent incident. However, to an officer in charge of public order, it probably seemed like an underworld quarrel with Primavera bearing half the blame. Richard was worried that this incident might be used as a reason to skip over the local occupying forces and crush Primavera directly from the GHQ level. However, Gabriel didn't blame Primavera at all, almost like he had something to do with it. Or rather, he didn't even use the word Primavera. He dealt with Richard as an individual man who was mourning the loss of his precious sister. To Richard, this was a greater comfort than anything else could have been.
I was certain the occupying forces would place the blame for that incident on me.
As you explained, you are established for the purpose of acting as a bridge between the city folk and the occupying forces. I believe I understand your reason for existing. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, correct?
It is my belief that, as long as they do not strike against the government, having the Japanese people be armed to a degree will contribute to the stability of public order. There is a Japanese saying that snakes know the snake trails best, which Captain Butler once told me of. I believe public order can be maintained if I follow Captain Butler's example and join you in a three-legged race. And besides, I never have been the sort of good person you all expect me to be. Isn't that right, Phil? I'm a villain, aren't I?
Yes, sir. When Butler answered, Gabriel laughed as though gloating. To Richard, it felt as though Gabriel was showing his understanding of Primavera's nature. Of course, it was all a farce. How much he must have loathed members of the criminal underworld. To think the man with the name of an angel could smile like this. All so that he could kill as many people in the underworld as possible. Richard, realizing that Gabriel had no intention of attacking Primavera, gradually relaxed. It was only natural. After all, Richard had nothing to lose from growing friendly with a man like Gabriel. After waiting until the conversation between the two of them grew casual, Gabriel brought up the subject of his own past, including the fact that he, too, had lost a little sister. Gabriel took a picture in a decorative frame and showed it to Richard. Mental and emotional manipulation! It showed a smiling girl with long hair with gentle waves. Elizabeth Kaburaya, nicknamed Liz. The beloved little sister Gabriel had adored more than anything else.
She was caught up in a certain incident and went to heaven while still young. So, I believe I know the pain of losing a little sister better than anyone.
Major.
So when I see you, I must offer my praise. I know that even now you are being continuously tormented by a pain that's tearing your heart apart. Such feelings cannot even be remotely suppressed by logic and cheap talk. But my God, they can be easily manipulated by sweet honeyed words. Oh, sorry, you didn't hear that. I forgot to mention this, but I'm no longer an officer in charge of eliminating organized crime. You and I are comrades. We both know the pain of losing little sisters in unforgivable incidents. So, don't feel that you have to push yourself so hard anymore. Forgive me, but it seems I've reached my limit.
Gabriel took out a handkerchief and wiped his eyes. These tears in the eyes of the young major, who had once actually seemed ruthless, broke down the dam holding back Richard's emotions. After that, he couldn't hold back the tears any longer. As tears trickled down his face, he hung his head and frantically tried to hold back any further emotions.
Richard-san.
It's all right. It seems Major Kaburaya also lost his little sister due to a certain incident.
To Keith, Gabriel's tears looked real. That was hardly surprising. After all, the pain he felt from losing Elizabeth was real. So even Keith's keen eyesight wasn't enough to penetrate to the evil lurking beyond Gabriel's tears.
From here on out, I'd like to move to purely personal matters. Let's put aside our roles as occupying forces officer and Japanese mafia consigliere. Let us talk as fellow big brothers who know the pain of losing sisters.
By which you mean?
Gabriel paused, picked up the picture of his little sister, and took a deep breath.
Liz, my little sister, was killed by a Chinese mafia.
It was probably true that Gabriel's sister was killed by a mafia. However, it wasn't a Chinese mafia that was involved. Butler knew well that the most terrifying lies are the ones that are 90% true. That was why no one could possibly see through the lie of Gabriel's tears. At those words, Richard let out a deep sigh. It was easy to tell by looking that he suspected the GDS most in Stella's murder, though he wasn't certain. I can hear him laughing. After taking careful notice of this, Gabriel advanced the conversation. To Butler, watching from the sidelines, it looked like both a comedy and a tragedy. After all, the sympathy of the man who killed Stella was moving Richard emotionally to the point of tears.
At the time, I was a boy, completely powerless. But I learned two things from it.
And what were those?
First, you must solve problems with your own hands. You mustn't rely on anyone else. No one else will help you. It's only natural. How could anyone who hasn't lost a sister know how we feel? Second, it taught me that power is necessary.
Gabriel was talking about a single type of action. Richard's mind slowly drifted towards a single word describing that action. And the instant before he realized what this action was, Gabriel said it out loud.
Power is necessary. For revenge, right?
At the mention of revenge, Richard's eyes shook for an instant. Richard probably thought he was maintaining his poker face. However, from Butler's point of view, much less Gabriel's, Richard's heart had been laid completely bare by now.
I studied hard to avenge my sister, to gain power. And then, I reached this position faster than anyone else. If I'd been then as I am now, I probably would have been able to protect my sister. And now it's possible for me to let everyone see what will happen if they ever have me as their enemy.
However, you have that power now. It should be possible for you to take revenge for your sister now.
Oh, believe me, I already am. It's too late. Those responsible lived as they pleased and have already lost their lives in some feud. But members of the criminal underworld, feuds are an everyday thing, are they not? In that sense, the ones who killed my sister lived out their natural lifespans without ever being punished. It's sad, isn't it? Justice was never carried out. I raised the hammer, and now I must hold it in the air forevermore. But you know what? I think this is the will of heaven. No, the will of my sister in heaven. I think Liz wants me to save someone suffering from the same pain as me. Of course, that's just cheap talk. But for that reason, I sympathize with you from the heart. I want to help you more than anyone else does. Once again, I'm not saying this as an officer of the military police. These are my honest feelings as a personal individual. As a fellow brother who knows your pain. Major. Stella-san's... No. Sumiko-san's killer is not only your foe, but mine as well. We must give the culprits a taste of our pain, so that no one has to suffer from it in the future. Justice demands that the sin of stealing someone's beloved sister be punished.
Justice.
What a chance that two brothers bearing this pain would cross the oceans to meet. I think it's a sign. Yes, this is a miracle. This is the revelation given to me from heaven. You must save your neighbor stricken by the sadness of losing a sister. No one can understand the suffering of that neighbor. No one except those who have suffered the same way.
Even though it was such a showy farce, Richard's eyes are filled with nothing but Gabriel's smile. Why couldn't Cyrus and the guard Keith see that their boss was being ensnared when it was happening right in front of them? Was it because all of this was being spoken in English? Or had they averted their eyes out of respect for their boss's feelings? Butler almost choked, feeling a rising urge to vomit, and hung his head without meaning to. He thought hanging out in the underworld had left him accustomed to seeing disgusting sights. However, he was now very, very aware of how wrong that was. To think that true evil could bring about such a strong urge to vomit. However, for that very reason, Butler couldn't disobey. He couldn't disobey Gabriel anymore.
Your pain is mine as well. I won't ask you to become my friend, but if you would allow it... Would you let me bear your pain alongside you?
And thus, Richard was pretty much, damn it. Gabriel spread his arms. To Richard, they probably looked like the wings of an only angel in this world who could understand his pain. Shakily, Richard walked towards Gabriel as though being drawn in. Don't do it. If you accept the hug of that fallen angel, it'll be two. In that instant, Butler averted his eyes. Richard accepted the fallen angel's embrace and buried his face in his shoulder. He gave up his sadness and the happy tears of being understood, as the fallen angel gave him tears of revenge and scorn. By now, Richard's heart could no longer escape. Even though his close friend Cyrus was there, the man who supposedly knew him any better than anyone else. Even though Keith was there, the man who supposedly understood the pain of his heart better than anyone else. Richard's heart was bound up by the fallen angel. The fallen angel of absolutely pure evil. God damn it! Afterwards, Richard explained Gabriel's past to Keith and Cyrus in Japanese. He explained that the two of them were comrades who both hated the ones who murdered their sisters. Keith, who was willing to team up with the devil if it meant finding Stella's killer, couldn't possibly resist the fallen angel's lure. Even Cyrus, who wanted to form connections with the occupying force HQ, had no reason to resist the fallen angel's lure. So Richard offered up all of his naked heart to Gabriel.
So then, has there been any progress in gathering information on Sumiko-san's killer?
He called her by her real name, not Stella. It struck deeper and deeper into Richard's heart. God fucking damn it! The pure manipulation! As he extended his claws deep into that chest.
We've done all we can to search for the culprit. We fully intend to make them pay for their crime.
Of course, seeing that through is the embodiment of justice. I also swear to assist you in your search to the best of my ability.
What'd the Major say?
He expressed his sincere desire to help search for the culprit.
Whoa! That's pretty good news! Hey, if we can get the help of an HQ officer, nothing can stop us!
I'm glad for the help, but all we need is information. It's my gun that'll finish the culprit off in the end.
Of course. You're the one who has that right for accepting Stella. However, if your bullet happens to miss, I'll grab that right for myself on the spot.
Richard, son, that's a pretty harsh joke. My bullets could catch him between the eyebrows from a kilometer away.
I didn't call for you today for the purpose of some meaningless police interview. I want to tell you about some information and evidence I've obtained that will aid us in our revenge.
Pardon me? What did you say?
I know the identity of the despicable culprits who killed our little sister.
Damn it! Richard's hair seemed to twitch. His eyes were wide open. His hands were open, as though about to grab onto Gabriel, and he shook.
Major, did you say you know who the culprit is?
Once you know, it's actually quite simple. Perhaps you should hear the rest from them directly. The ones involved who know the inside story. They're waiting in another room. Bill, could you bring them in?
Yes, sir.
Oh god, they're probably planted people. God damn it, no! After a short wait, Butler guided in two Chinese men in the prime of life. The two of them bowed respectfully. Then they introduced themselves in English. Butler provided a simultaneous translation so that Cyrus and Keith could understand too.
It has been a long time, Consigliere Maogi.
We met you at the ceremony for the establishment of the City 23 Mutual Aid of Japanese Countrymen. He was referring to the ceremony 2 years ago when the reborn PYRE was established. Many people from powers and neighboring cities had come to witness the formal establishment of the new force that had conquered City 23. Even Richard didn't remember every single person who had been there, and Gabriel took full advantage of that. God, this fucking hurts!
I apologize for forgetting your names, even though we were introduced. Allow me to introduce myself again. I am Richard Maogi, Primavera's consigliere.
I'm glad we had a chance to meet. However, it's only natural you forgot. There are so many people there. The pair introduced themselves, but Richard didn't remember them. However, going by their atmosphere and demeanor, there could be no doubt that they were VIPs in the Chinese criminal underworld.
They don't feel like the GDS.
I remember. Ba Shen Bang! Wasn't that guy one of the elders in City 8's Ba Shen Bang?
My. So you're an elder of Ba Shen Bang.
That's formally the elder, I'm sad to say.
We were chased out by that youngster Ma who cares little for duty or humanity. Come to think of it, that's right. If I remember correctly, during the Soy Sauce War, Meiju and the young lord teamed up with a young leader named Ma from Ba Shen Bang, and they aided each other in their respective coups.
In other words, you're indirect enemies of Lee Meiju's group.
What is this all about, Major? Are you saying that they know who killed my sister?
To skip to the end, yes. As the Japanese proverb states, where there's smoke, there's... how did that go again?
There's no smoke without fire, is how it goes, sir.
And there you have it, Richard.
I'm not sure I understand your meaning.
I mean that the ones you currently suspect most are indeed the culprits.
And who's that?
Is it the GDS?
Is it?
Spit it out! Jesus Christ, I didn't expect you to raise your voice that much. My God. Well, now hold on now. We can't be sure yet.
This is a rather sensitive topic for us. It would be greatly appreciated if you put an end to these word games.
To jump to the conclusion, all of this was instigated by Sun Shilong and Lee Meiju of the GDS.
As soon as Butler finished translating, Keith turned around fiercely. Cyrus held him in place.
Calm down! Listen until the end!
I don't need to. Please let go of me, Grand Boss.
Don't take me lightly, boy! It's too early to decide! Even if the JDS turns out to be our enemy, we're gonna decide the time and place of our revenge. I know how you feel. There are times that revenge on your own terms would make everything Stella tried to build worthless!
You couldn't tell it by his fierce face, but Cyrus was very good at dealing with men overcome by strong emotions. The demon sergeant hadn't held his troops together by physical strength alone. Oh god, I am feeling... Ugh. However, because Keith had flown into a rage in his place, Richard was able to regain his composure slightly. Ever since the Soy Sauce War, PYRE and the GDS had been in a Cold War situation. However, ever since its foundation, the GDS had been trying to control City 23's harbor districts, and it never abandoned the goal. Now that the GDS had a close relationship with the young head of Ba Xingbang and a superior position, there was no reason for them to maintain this Cold War. Richard had given some thought to the possibility that someone was trying to set Primavera and the GDS against each other for their own benefit. However, that was also impossible. After all, Primavera had the backing of the American military. The GDS had the backing of the Chinese military. In other words, trying to take on both of these forces together would be like trying to take on the GHQ itself. Battle for dominance in post-war Japan was an Othello game that only the US and Chinese militaries could play. He would never have dreamed that a high-level GHQ officer might plan such a massacre for the sake of personal revenge. God, you are oh, God, Gabriel, you sick, twisted son of a bitch. Okay. We are finally back into Rose Guns days, and we are now in the final season. I hope you guys are as excited for this and probably depressed as I am for this, because good God, I already feel immense emotional pain. I already miss Stella so goddamn much, and boy, Gabriel. Oh, you are making me feel an undeniably large amount of hatred. But my God, you are such an evil, magnificent son of a bitch. Oh, God. His emotional manipulation is on like it is on such a whole new level that he's able, using the death of his own sister for his own gains. It may be a personal revenge, but my God, man. Holy crap. The manipulation is so fucking impressive. Enough to make me fucking pissed! But oh my God. Oh, this season's off to a great start. And if you're all excited for it and probably dreading this as much as I am, then let's just jump in together. Thank you all so much for watching, and by God, I will see all of you in the next video.